Hi, this is Christine again with a fairly quick overview of the process I took to do this painting completed. I will put this on here fairly quickly and then I'll do some detailed videos so that we can go into a little more depth on certain areas of the painting. So here, as you can see, I'm putting in all the darks. The dark of the helmet and the face, some of the shadowing of the arms eventually, and the neck area. It's good to get the darks in first because it gives you a chance to see how the eye will travel around your painting once it's finished. It's very important to your overall composition of the painting. I haven't put the darks in, the dark blue in of the where it is on the sleeve yet, but that will help draw the eye down from that part up to the hat and the face, and then down to where the numbers are in the back. So keep that in mind when you're doing your painting. You want to sort of work all areas in the very beginning at once so that you can really work out your composition and make sure that you've set it up so that the viewer's eye will travel around your painting. Now this can also be done beforehand in a sketch where you just put your values in, your darks and lights in black and white. And I have done a sketch of this before I started doing a painting, and that's where I initially got my drawing down onto the canvas from tracing over my sketch. And also you can do a color version in sort of a digital format just to sort of plug in where the colors are and just see how it all works out. And just remember that, you have artistic license. You can change things around and move them as you wish if you think it's going to work better visually. I have a previous video recording of the process that I used to do the sketch of this particular picture in the first place. So please look back and subscribe so that you can see some of the videos that are coming up and some of the videos that were done in the past. I do a lot of my color mixing, experimenting right on the canvas. As you can see, I'm testing out different colors and shades of flesh color to match what's going on with the lighting, how skin tones change when they're in the shadows as opposed to where they are in the light. In the face, I'm using a combination of alizarin crimson, vermilion red, cadmium yellow light, Terra Rosa, and French ultramarine. Oh, as well as titanium white. Once again, don't be afraid to experiment with color. Flesh tones are usually a combination of yellow, red, white, and a little bit of blue. Now, the quantity of each depends on the tone of the skin. If you see more yellow, you're going to put more yellow in, and etc. Alizarin crimson is a good choice for flesh color in a lot of cases, and sometimes if it has more slightly yellow tones, you might use a like cadmium red as well. In this photo, you can see where the shadow is sort of travels across on a slant across his face. So within that shadow, there's even deeper shadows around by the eyes. But within the facial area where the shadow is hitting the upper cheek and then down to the rest, there's sort of a play on different tonal values within the face, and the coloration can vary there. Keep checking out your tonal values because, for instance, we know the eyeball has white around it, but like now it's in the shadows. So this white that's around the iris is going to be a lot darker than, say, the white that is on the tip of his nose, only because that's where the light is hitting and that's where some of the lightest parts of his face are. This always goes back to the idea that you should always paint what you see and not what you know it to be. Just like when I get into the highlights of the hat, the helmet there is hard and shiny, and therefore the highlights are going to be much sharper and in higher contrast next to the very dark of the dark blue of the helmet. And that contrast, that light, is going to be much lighter than, let's say, the white of the eyeball, or possibly even the tip of the nose, because it doesn't have that dark contrast around it. You're not going to see a much darker color next to it, so it's going to be perceived as quite a bit lighter. So I always say you should go from a nice, sharp, clear reference, and in this case I'm not. So here's an idea. If you have, I paint rather loosely, so you're not going to see any kind of photorealism from my painting. But if you have a tendency to be a little bit too detailed than you'd like to be, or a little stiffer than you'd like to be, maybe choose a reference that doesn't have as much detail and sort of forces you to see things in, bigger shapes, and with less, sharpness or detail added to it. Therefore, it will sort of push you into that zone of painting a little bit looser. Now, I know that I've sped this painting up at least 4 times since I was downloading it and editing it, but it's still going to be a little bit on the longer side, so I hope you stick with it. But in any case, I will go through some more detailed stuff in other videos. Painting does take a fairly long time, and when you're filming the whole thing, you're sort of reducing it from hours down to minutes. So you may have noticed I really thinned down the paint a lot when I initially started putting in some of the shadows. So like on the hand there, on the glove, I started just a very sort of like medium, sort of thinned down oil paint in a shade, just to sort of give myself an idea of where those shadows are going to be. And then eventually I'll go into that with the thicker paint. You see me putting in the background here, and so let's talk about backgrounds for a second. I didn't like the one that was in the picture. I felt like it was way too busy for what I wanted. But I do want the helmet here to stick out more, so I had to lighten that background in order for that to show up more. And you can do that. That's part of taking artistic license. Decide to yourself what makes the picture better. Also, if you want your paint to dry quicker, because oil paint does have a tendency to take a long time to dry, you can add more medium to it. In this case, I'm using Gamsol, or sometimes in the past I've used Japan Dryer. Also, if you're searching for reference here, sometimes, like in this case, I just froze my TV screen for a second and took a quick camera picture. It doesn't come out the greatest, but like I said before, sometimes if you paint loose and you don't really want to do it really too detailed, it's an okay thing to go from. It gives you a chance anyway to get more experience, and that's what's important. You should be drawing and painting every day if you can. I will say, when you do work from thin layers to thicker layers, you have a better chance of not getting the paint always mixed up with the paint underneath, and the possibility of it getting sort of mushy and muddy in color further down the road. I'm going to shorten this a little bit by not showing you all the painting detail I ended up doing on his gloves there, because they have such an intricate pattern. So, I'll have a little bit of it here, but I'll probably do that off camera for a while. Now see, just by putting that blue down there, you can see how now your eye will travel to the bottom of the painting, and that darkness will draw your eye in. The darks in your painting usually are the vehicle to get the eye to go from one place to the other. So here I'm just sort of doing the finishing touches, like the patch with the 16 on it on his sleeve, and clarifying, getting clear of the 27 on top, and the logo on his cap. And just sort of touching up some of the lights and darks, just to give them a little more contrast, putting some of the lights on his hat to give him a little more punch. So if you enjoyed this video and you were able to get some helpful tips from it, please subscribe and like, and I will be posting more videos so that you'll have more chances to learn a little bit more of my process, and hopefully I can help you in yours. So long. Thanks for watching.